What's going on, everybody? Back for a Wednesday Q&A. Now, I went almost 2 straight years without missing a Wednesday Q&A, and then last week I went to Hawaii, so that changed everything. But I'm back. I tried to replace the Wednesday Q&A by having a video with a Q&A to my friend Dave. I hope you enjoyed it. But it's one of my staples. It is my favorite weekly episode. It's one of my favorite things I do on the channel because what it does is it connects us. It connects us to each other, and it's a way to interact without just doing it via typing. Now, another way I'm going to be interacting is next Tuesday. Yes, in 6 days from now, I will be doing my first live stream of the year. I'm hoping to do one a month. This will be my January live stream. I have 3 awesome guests, 3 guys that I love so much that are going to be joining me. And the topic is all about my question to all of you from Monday, which was, who are the top tier Hall of Famers that will never be forgotten as it relates to the hobby of collecting sports cards? Now, there are all-time great players, but some of those all-time great players may not be hobby relevant forever. And that was the question from Monday. Who are those players? We're going to talk about that topic. We're going to discuss some of what you all had to say. And I hope that you'll participate in the question from Monday by simply responding in the comments for Monday's video. If you have a question that you'd like me to respond to in an upcoming Wednesday Q&A, please don't hesitate to ask it in the the comments of this video. So I'm always looking for questions. I'm always excited when you all take the time to ask a question about whatever topic you think would be interesting to hear my thoughts on and to bring up with this card community of Midlife Nation. That said, no more from me. Let's get straight to this week's first question. It seems that collecting vintage cards is sort of like manifest destiny. Instead of going east to west in the US, the vintage collector is collecting older and older cards. Eventually, the collector is going to reach a dead end. My question is, what is the next frontier for the vintage collector? Oh, love this one. I really, really like this question a lot. And it does feel like, as people continue to collect, they tend to go older and older and older. Not everybody does. Some people stick with a certain genre, a certain player. Not everybody goes older, but a lot of collectors do. And I think one of the reasons for that, one of the reasons that collectors go older and older and older is once you go to a card show after card show after card show, you see enough of the same sort of cards that you want to see something you haven't seen before or something that you've seen, rarely. I commonly mention in Northern California, every single card show I go to, I know there will be multiple Willie McCovey rookie cards. Now, I don't have a Willie McCovey rookie card. I'd like to have a Willie McCovey rookie card, but it's hard for me to get excited about peeling off a couple of $100 for a Willie McCovey rookie card, which is kind of mind-blowing. That's all it costs. But it's hard for me to lay that money down when I know there will be one at the next show. I know if I go on eBay right now, there will be lots and lots of them available. So it's hard to just go, all right, this is the time I'm going to finally do it. Unless it's an exceptional copy, unless it's an exceptional deal. So when I go to shows, in fact, I've got a show coming up this weekend that I'm excited to go to on Saturday. And my good buddy Mitch, who's a really great collector, a really great dealer, he comes up to our local Sacramento show twice a year. Last time he was up was over the summer when Mike Petty came up for the card show. Mike Petty, you may remember, bought a Stan Musial Red Heart from him, a beautiful card. Well, Mitch will be up for his winter visit at the card show this weekend. And I'm excited to see what Mitch has because he has a lot of stuff that I don't see at the normal local card show. And one of the reasons I don't do videos on every local card show I go to is because I don't want to just show you the same stuff over and over. So I do occasionally show local shows, and I do it when there are things that aren't there all the time. And so it's possible that I end up doing a video on the local card show this Saturday, partly because it's fun to show Mitch's stuff because he always has new inventory. Now, I haven't even started answering your question. Sorry. Okay, so back to the question of where will people go if we keep going older, and then it gets to the beginning of baseball cards, then what? I don't think that there's an end, and I don't even think that it's older. Let's just take a second and take a step back and look around just the YouTube community, because I think the answer is right in front of us. I think the answer to the question is right in front of us. Some of the YouTube guys that have been in the hobby the longest, okay? If we think about them, I think of Orlando Collector's Dream, right? I think of Blue Jacket, Dave Blue Jacket 66. I think of, Mike Moynihan, Baseball Collector. I think of John Mangini. I think of Rick's Vintage Oddball Cards. Now, those guys have been in the hobby for a really long time. And if you look at what they collect, and you look at some of their pickups, not all of their pickups, but if you look at what are those guys kind of into, what I see that they're into is not older and older in every case. It's rarer and rarer and rarer. Those guys are going for cards that you just don't see all the time. And because of that, I think that scratches an itch for them. Just like when I go to the local card show and I see a 1960 Willie McCovey, in fact, maybe I should just go out and finally buy one. But it's just like, yeah, I've seen that before. So the thing that gets people's juices flowing is stuff that they don't see all the time. And that's, I think, where people are going. And in some cases, it's older. But sometimes it's regional releases, right? Sometimes it's food issue. Sometimes it's, issue of cards that aren't the ones that you see at every card show. Cards that you might see at the National. Cards that you might see at, a regional show like a Philly card show or a Burbank card show or a Strongsville. And so I think that what you see is there will never be the end because there's always rarer. There's always, I've never seen one of these in person before. There's always a card or a set that you've seen pictures of or you heard of that all of a sudden one is in front of you. So I think what happens is there's a redundancy that happens when you see the same stuff over and over. We all could go buy a Rickey Henderson rookie card today. And we also could go buy that 1960 Willie McCovey. But you may not see a certain card that is rare. And I think to a certain extent, that's part of my buddy Dylan, Double D Vintage Baseball Cards. He's been in the hobby for a really long time. I think one of the reasons he's attracted to centered cards is because while some cards are common, maybe you want a 1960 Willie McCovey or you want a 1980 Rickey Henderson. What's not common is to find a card perfectly centered. So it's almost like a scavenger hunt within the scavenger hunt. It's finding a way to take cards that aren't rare and finding something about them that is rare, which is perfect centering. Because at the end of the day, we want to be on the hunt. The part of the fun is the hunt. It's the hunt. It's the search. And if you find something that you don't see every day, like a perfectly centered Ozzie Smith rookie card, then that's like, whoa, you don't see that every day. So I think that what you'll find is the collector who's been in for a while, they tend to be drawn to the thing that they don't see every day. And sometimes that's older, sometimes that's rarer, or sometimes that's a characteristic about a set or about a card that you don't see at every show, which is something like perfect centering. So I don't think there will ever be an end to the treasure hunt. The treasure hunt is just different, and it's finding something that you haven't seen at every show that you've been to. Yeah, dude, PSA lost my respect a few months ago, and my opinion of them is getting even lower now. It's deliberate manipulation, not cool in this hobby. Quick question. What is a good buy among recent Hall of Fame inductees? Hope you had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. All right, so a little bit of a wrap up on there of last week's comments where I kind of went into a little bit about PSA and SGC, and will SGC eventually turn into PSA, or the characteristics between the two companies and that differentiate them, will the differentiation remain? But to the question there, it's what is a good buy about the recent Hall of Fame inductees? Now, I'm not really a speculator, and what I'm certainly not is going to be doing is giving speculation advice. I want people to buy what they like. Now, if somebody out there likes, as part of their treasure hunt and as part of their fun in the hobby, is to speculate, well, then I think that the opportunity to do the speculation for the current Hall of Fame class is kind of now behind us. We knew the finalists for the Veterans Committee, and I was even on an episode where we talked about a live stream where we talked about who we thought would get in and why we thought they would get in. And I thought Dave Parker would get in. I thought Dick Allen would get in. And then I thought one of the Negro League players would get in as well. And the reason I thought, and that wasn't really hobby relevant because there aren't a lot of cards for those players. So the hobby crossover for that was I thought Dave Parker and Dick Allen would get in, and I thought the time to buy those cards was before, because as you look around, there are a lot of people who collect Hall of Famers. Back to Mike Moynihan, baseball collector. His goal is to collect basically every Hall of Fame, a slabbed copy, a PSA copy of every card of every Hall of Famer from the major releases from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so the second Dave Parker got in, the second Dick Allen got in, he was on the hunt and buying their cards. And I don't think he's alone. I think there are a lot of people who that's what they collect. And so the demand instantly went up for those guys. And the demand will continue to stay up for those guys, in my opinion. Now, I think that there's a shot in the arm, and then I think there's kind of a little bit of a bounce back down. But I think that the permanent demand curve of Dave Parker and of Dick Allen is higher now than it was 2 months ago. So is there an opportunity to buy? I think the opportunity has now passed, because I think there's permanently going to be higher. Now, if somebody is a speculator, I think, the most common card that people collect are rookie cards of Hall of Famers. So I guess if you wanted to speculate, again, I would have bought the Dick Allen and Dave Parker rookie cards a few months ago. In fact, my dad bought a Dick Allen rookie card a few months ago because he thought he was going to get in. And then as soon as he did, he put it up for sale, and I think he doubled his money. It's there are a lot of people who, like to use the hobby to pay for the hobby. My dad, that's part of the hobby for my dad, is using the hobby to pay for the hobby. I'm not really a person who does a ton of speculating. I'm going to think this is going to happen, so I'm going to buy this and then I'll sell it to pay for this. That I get the appeal of that, but that's not really my thing. So what I would say is if there are Hall of Famers that were recently inducted and they are cards that you like, that you think fit your collection, those are the ones you should buy. If you didn't, then I would say on the next go round, look at who is in the finalist, who are the finalists for that class, and say, do you think any of them will get in? If there are some that you do think will get in, then I guess you could, throw a couple of darts and make a couple of predictions and then try to sell their cards. But again, I'm I'm not Jim Cramer on MSNBC, who is going to be throwing out predictions of what I think is going to happen in the card market, at least not for investment purposes, just for entertainment purposes.
Hey, Greg, another awesome video. Thank you. I also greatly appreciate you answering my question concerning Authentic Altered. You provided such an incredible detailed insight. I have another question for your consideration. In regard to oversized cards, after watching your videos for 2+ years, I know you're not a big fan. But do you think it's possible you might change your thinking? The only reason I bring this up is because I did. As I slowly accumulated quite a few pre-war cards, I started to see the beauty in cards such as the 1911 T3 Turkey Reds, M101-2s, etc. I know you mentioned in today's episode that your thinking had changed about Authentic Altered from 2 years ago. I was just wondering if it's possible you're thinking you would change on oversized as well. Thanks again, Greg. You are such an inspiration to Midlife Nation and everyone around you.
All right, so this is a fun question that I've actually been thinking about since I first read it a couple hours ago. And let me first say that one thing I try really, really hard to do with this hobby is stay open-minded. And by staying open-minded, I think that there are things that maybe initially aren't super appealing to me that become appealing to me. For example, when I was growing up for years and years and years, going to card shows all over the place for years, I never considered buying a card that I thought had any value and getting it autographed. The only autographing that I got on cards were TTMs, because those cards were junk wax era cards for the most part and didn't have a lot of value. I did go to a card show one time and have Willie McCovey sign a card. He was signing for free at a mall show, and I bought the card for $1. And so it wasn't really like you were ruining a card that had value, because that's the way that we looked at it. And now I think that it's a great thing to get signed or cards. And I think a lot of that changed from the modern hobby, where a lot of cards come in packs signed. And so being open-minded to that, I mean, I always got my autographs on balls. I have lots and lots of baseballs signed by great players. And because that's where you got balls and photos signed, not cards. But originally, I'm neurotic, and I wanted my cards to fit in, in the pages. And so an oversized card, and I got a few oversized cards of Roger Clemens as a kid, and they didn't really fit in the pages right. And it just kind of, it gets my OCD worked up. My OCD pot starts turning. I'm just sitting there stirring that up. And before I know it, I just get frustrated. And so I've never been a big collector of cards that were oversized because they just don't fit with everything else. And I just like having everything in one place and one easy to locate location and organize and looking nice. And I'm just weird like that. And that's part of the reason that I think that I've not been a big oversized guy. But I gotta say, I've always been a fan of Red Man cards. I think Red Man cards are really, really cool. And, when I watch other people's videos, there are certain videos and I see people have stuff and I'm like, man, that's really cool. And it's not always the most expensive card. I mean, Red Man cards without the tab especially are very affordable. Well, my buddy Adam, a Vintage Sanctuary, he put together a run of Yogi Berra Red Man cards. And it's the same image. The difference is the color of the back. And meaning the backdrop of the card. And he got the 3 years and he put them side by side and did a video. And I'm like, man, those are really cool. Like that is really cool. And I bought my buddy Mookie at Strongsville last year. I bought him a couple of gifts because he couldn't make it out. And I felt bad. And so I bought him a couple of gifts and I sent them out to him. And I bought him a Larry Doby Red Heart, which is, I think, a beautiful card. And I like them. And one of the things that's been holding me back from buying more of them is that they're oversized. And it's like, well, I need a whole different container to store them in. I mean, how ridiculous does that sound? It is absolutely ridiculous that I may not collect something that I like simply because the size of the item. It's insane. But yes, I've gotten more and more open to that idea. I've started collecting the Hall of Fame postcards that have, some autographed Hall of Fame postcards, those yellow postcards. And I like those, and they're oversized, but it does drive me nuts that I don't have a good place to store them yet. So to answer your question, yes, I'm always trying to be open-minded. I'm always trying to say, what do I like? And collect what I like. And in fact, when you see some of my December pickups, you're going to go, oh my gosh, Greg has completely gone off the deep end. And it's possible that I have. I mean, it is midlife cards, and the midlife crisis is real. But to your point, yes, I think there are beautiful oversized cards. I think the turkey red cards are some of the best looking cards around. I think the red hearts are a great option for somebody looking for a non-traditional set, a non-traditional card that are beautiful. I think that there are a lot of options for some of the premium, some of the Gaudi premium cards and things are just stunning. So do I think I'll eventually dabble in them? Yeah, I do. Do I think that my opinion on lots of things in the hobby continues to evolve? Absolutely. I will continue to try to stay very open-minded, and I will continue to try to collect things that bring me joy. And if oversized cards start entering my collection more rapidly, and it's bringing me joy, then I'm all about it, because that is what this is all about.
Question for the next Q&A. How do you feel about a player that's just a designated hitter to get into the Hall of Fame without playing in the field their whole career?
Oh, man. I definitely have opinions on this. I definitely have opinions on players that are only DHs. Now, let me first just say that I think that one of the responses is going to be, well, pitchers only pitch, pitchers don't hit. Now, I I'm a traditionalist that actually thinks pitchers should hit. I don't even think we should have a DH. I understand why we have a DH. I understand it's more exciting for fans. But part of what it does is it takes away some of the strategy of the game. I mean, pitchers being able to bunt, pitchers having to be careful who they're throwing inside to because they're going to bat and they're going to throw inside back to them. I mean, it's a lot easier for a pitcher to brush a guy back when they never have to take the plate. I think that everybody should hit. I respect the opinion otherwise, but I wish that there was no DH. I think that there's more hit and runs, there's more squeeze plays, there's more bunting, there's more stolen bases, knowing that you have the pitcher in the batting order. The other thing that it's done is it's made it harder for pitchers to have low ERAs when a ninth of the lineup, so 11% of the lineup, instead of it being a pitcher. Now, some pitchers can hit. CC Sabathia can hit. Madison Bumgarner was a great hitter. There's a lot of good hitters, but it makes it harder on the pitcher. So it's no doubt that ERAs have gone up a little bit, and there's been more run production and things because 11% or so of the lineup is now a really good hitter instead of someone who traditionally is not a great hitter. So let me just start there. That said, I think that a game, a sport, let me restate this. I think a sport encompasses all of the aspects. You can't be the best. Part of what makes Michael Jordan the best, part of what makes, Kobe Bryant one of the best, is they were not just incredible offensive players, they were incredible defensive players. And to me, baseball has offense and defense. Now, football is different. Players only play one or the other. There was a time they played both. Some did. It's been a while. But, I think that, to me, in order to be one of the best baseball players of all time, your fielding matters, your arm matters. Part of what makes Roberto Clemente amazing is he was a fantastic fielder. He had an amazing right arm. I mean, he had a cannon. Same with Vladimir Guerrero, had a cannon. Ichiro had a cannon. Bo Jackson had a cannon. Ken Griffey Jr. was not just an amazing hitter. He was an amazing fielder. We can go down the list. Willie Mays, one of the reasons Willie Mays is one of the best all time is because he was so good defensively. I mean, these are 5-tool guys, not 2-tool or 1-tool guys. It is not just about contact and power. There's more to it than that. There's speed, there's defense, there's a lot to it. So I definitely believe that, and I mean the elephant in the room over the last 12 months is Ohtani. Ohtani hits, period. Now, when Ohtani came in, the thing that was amazing about Ohtani is he pitched. He was an amazing pitcher, and he was an amazing hitter. And then now he's hurt, but he gets to keep playing because he only has to hit. And he can go to any of the teams. He can go to the Dodgers because it's not just the American League that has the DH. Meanwhile, you got Aaron Judge, who, granted, there was a drop ball in an important inning in the World Series that he's taken a lot of heat for. But the fact that a man that large is playing center field and playing it pretty well is insanely impressive. He hits for average, he hits for power, and he's a really good defender. So when people compare Ohtani in 2024 to Aaron Judge in 2024, not only, in my opinion, do Judge's stats outperform Ohtani's, but Judge also had to play in the field, and that takes a wear and tear on your body. So anyway, I have issues with guys that were only DHs. It's one of the issues I have. One of the reasons I have a little bit of an issue with Harold Baines is he DH'd quite a bit. Edgar Martinez, he DH'd quite a bit. David Ortiz, Don't. There are there are so many landmines in front of me right now. I'll just leave it at that. I don't think if you're just a DH that you should be a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. A Hall of Famer at all, maybe, but you cannot be looked at in the same reverence. Two guys, one that played in the field and one who was a DH, and they have similar hitting stats. I mean, those guys aren't comparable because one of the guys also played defense. I'm not a fan of, of the basketball players who put up all the points and then don't play any defense. And you guys probably know a couple of the guys I'm thinking of right now. So for me, baseball is a game that was intended for hitters to also field. And it's the same reason I don't think that a closer should be winning a Cy Young, an MVP, regardless of how well you did, Dennis Eckersley. I don't think you deserve a Cy Young because you didn't pitch nearly as many innings as a guy like Roger Clemens did that year.
Hey Greg, another great Q&A. Question, with 2025 right around the corner, what advice would you give to someone, me, that is going to Strongsville for the first time? I am already imagining that next year's show is going to be drastically increased in attendance, mostly due to all the publicity it has received on YouTube. So part A, advice. Part B, how will the publicity affect the show? Thanks.
Okay, now Strongsville. One of the most fun weekends I had, one of the most fun events I had in 2024 was attending Strongsville. Now, does that mean I'm always going to go to, am I going to go to Strongsville every single year? No, I don't think I'm going to go to Strongsville every single year, even though it's a lot of fun, because it's in Cleveland and I live near Sacramento. It's like a 5.5 hour flight to get there. It's hard to get a direct flight. It's just not an easy, it's just a long ways for me. For a card show that is located literally, last year's card show was in an ice rink. So think about how big an ice rink is. The entire show was inside of an ice rink. It's not a big show at all. And the thing about it is the concentration of vintage and the concentration of top dealers of vintage is very, very high. So what should your expectations be? The expectation, I think, is not a big show. Think about like a high school gymnasium, a show in a high school gymnasium size building. Okay, that's how big it'll be. But when you go from table to table, it's a lot of the top vintage dealers. So I want people that are attending, and hey, if people want to go, they should go. And I had a blast going. But don't think you're going to show up to something that's like the National. The National is just 100 times, not 100, but 80 times bigger, 50 times bigger, maybe 100 times bigger. But there's none of the modern stuff. So that would be the first thing, is temper your expectations for the size of the show. Not a big show. The thing that the Strongsville show was, the reason it was fun for me is because a lot of people from the YouTube community attended. And it was like a hangout. And because the show was so small, you can look across the aisle. Every table you walk up to, there's somebody that you know, somebody that you recognize, somebody you start talking to. And so at the National, it's hard to stay. It's like literally hard to stay together. There were people I was trying to walk with, and I turn around, I'm like, where'd they go? And there were people that I lost as I was trying to hang out with them at the National. At Strongsville, there's nowhere to hide. which is good. It's like, that's the point. And I know, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I know there are going to be some gatherings. There are going to be some events to make hanging out easier. And I know there's more to come on that. So if you're planning on going to Strongsville, go in there with the expectation of, I'm going to hang out with a bunch of like-minded card collectors, vintage card collectors, specifically a bunch of guys from the YouTube community. And if that sounds like fun, then I think you'll have an absolute blast. If you're thinking you're going to go to Cleveland to attend anything near the National, then I think you'll be disappointed. Now, there were people that went to Strongsville last year that I talked to that were like, I don't need to come back. And I'm like, whoa. But everybody that I know that was there for the people, for the camaraderie, had an absolute blast. So if you want an opportunity in an event for camaraderie with like-minded, YouTube recognizable and participants, then you will love it. If you're going to Strongsville to find the rarest cards and the greatest volume of cards that you've ever seen, you might be disappointed. If you're going to Strongsville hoping to stay at a nice hotel, you're definitely going to be let down, because the hotel is not it is not the Four Seasons. So that would be I think that answers the first. I'm excited about it, but I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to go in 2026 because it's just hard to get to. It's expensive to get to for me. It's hard to get to. I can't go every single year. If I had to pick the two between the National and Strongsville, card show wise, the National's way better. Enjoyment with my friends wise, Cleveland, the Strongsville's way better. But the National also has nicer hotels, and it's way easier for me where I live to get to. So I'm much more likely to go to a Chicago National than a Cleveland Strongsville. It's basically in Cleveland. It's just outside of Cleveland. A Strongsville show. But I am going. I already have my tickets and everything. Everything's booked for this year's 2025 April Strongsville show. I will absolutely be there. And I know a lot of other people that I like a lot are going to be there, and I'm psyched to hang out. Do I think the show will change because of the publicity? I kind of thought that was possible, would happen last year, but to be honest with you, it wasn't crazy jam-packed and busy. I was kind of surprised. I was kind of expecting it to be a zoo last year, and it wasn't. Will it suddenly be this year? Maybe. But again, I haven't seen... I know that there have been a couple of years of publicity for the Strongsville show before last year's show, but it still wasn't jam-packed last year. So I'm not thinking it'll be jam-packed this year, but I guess it's possible. How it plays out, I don't know, but I'll be there, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with some of my favorite people that will also be there. So that's my thought. That said, if you have a question for an upcoming episode, please do not hesitate to ask it down below in the comments. Just simply type your question. I'm always looking for questions for Wednesday Q&A episodes.